the movements and shapes of dance, the storytelling and pageantry of theater, music, and literature. It is moved by the feel, by what we feel and the need to express it. And we create something that has never existed. I personally am so touched by the beauty all around me. Everywhere I see beauty, and when I see something that makes my heart pound with awe, I want to paint it. I want to express it in color and shape. The painting is not, these creations are not me. Oh, I better just read it. I'm trying not to read it. I'll just read it. Okay. The painting is not me or the scene I see. It is its own entity that would not exist without my reaction and the beauty of what I'm seeing. I desire to share that. I want people to be stopped for a moment and look at my art and to feel. To be nowhere else but in the celebration of creation. It is a way I show my love and to express it, and I can share my joy with all of you. When Karen Fogelsong asked me if I'd be interested in having this show, I was so honored. The first thing I thought was my sculptures. No one has seen my sculptures other than this one time in '91 when I was showing paintings and this sculpture at the Museum of Colorado History. That's the only time anyone has seen my sculptures. It took me days to clean them up. They have been gathering dust on my studio. So that was what sort of started me going, well, I really want to use my sculptures. They had to be cleaned up. Also, I had just finished cleaning out my mother's house, and I had found a lot of grade school art. And then a lot of photos of me, which got this idea of starting 7 decades of art. This is 7 decades. I'm not 70 yet, but I have some since first grade. So 70 years, 70 decades of art. Okay, that's a little ad lib. Okay, this got, doing this and looking for things, this got me thinking of my life and how it has always been me creating art and never quitting. This is true, with every decision with every decision I had to make, I always asked myself, is this good for my art? If the answer was yes, I did it. This included what apartment I took. This included everything. Is it good for my art? And then I did it. So every decision was like that. I'll just repeat it like I made it up. This show took me many months to put together. I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking of a piece and start rummaging through my basement at like 4:30 in the morning, trying to find it. I ended up maybe never finding that specific piece, but finding others I had totally forgotten. I've been doing this so long, I have forgotten big things. So I have all these flat files that I haven't looked at for 25 years. So I'm looking for them because I'm looking for older stuff. And then one of the things I pull out of the drawers, this is from the 80s, was a lot of friends. We trade art with each other a lot. And I'm seeing art I haven't seen since the 90s of friends. Most of them are dead. Mostly from AIDS. And that was like so emotional. 4:30 in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, Cliff, you know. And having their artwork with me, and just this whole process made me remember things and really appreciate my life. Has always been my art. And to show you how bad the memory is, I found them in those drawers. I found a Denver Art Magazine, fancy one, with a little tag in it. I opened the tag, and there was a picture of my art in this place. It was my first gallery in Cherry Creek. If you had asked me what my first gallery was, I wouldn't have remembered. It was a really big deal. You know, I'm in my, I'm late 20s. And for 3 years, it was called The Painted Pig. It was on 3rd Ave. And I made my bread and butter that way. I did a lot of just really loose apples and stuff, little still lifes. And the fact that I forgot my own first gallery shows you that, other than I'm forgetful, that I've had a very long life doing this. Blah, 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 first gallery, art friends, okay. We're almost done with the reading. So during this, I thought I better start writing this stuff down so I started writing my life down, and then it became these placards that they kindly reproduced for me on all stages of my life. And some of it also started with photographs that I found at my mother's house. The one with this wall is my grade school, and it's got a picture of me and my sister, and I'm drawing, and I'm obviously copying something. And I thought, oh my God, that's probably the first picture. There's lots more photos to go through in my mother's stuff, but that might be the first picture of me drawing. I don't know what my sister's doing, but just looking cute. That was our bedroom, and so then it became, well, I will separate some of this chronologically. And the grade school ones over there, we did not have an art room. And one of the reasons is Mike, 50s and 60s kids early 60s were the largest baby boom happening. And they did not know what to do with all of us. And our grade school couldn't fit us. They put the 4th, 5th, and 6th grader in a Quonset hut while they built a section for us to go to, which would eventually have an art room. And we had 45 to 50 kids in each room. Very crowded, sharing desks. But the art teacher, I guess this leaning is okay, but the art teacher would come once a week, and she basically had construction paper. And there's one, the one with the flowers on top is a Mother's Day card. The only reason I know it is on the inside, written very badly, was Dear Mother. That was obviously something I had to copy from the blackboard, because I didn't know anyone who used the word mother for their mother. I personally wasn't allowed because my mother thought it sounded like a swear word. So, I've used it occasionally because I knew that bothered her. But the one below is 1st grade, and I think it's so cute. I even have a leaf, and the sun is multicolored. But the one on the left, this was probably 3rd grade, and the teacher came in and she had construction paper, and so when we were only supposed to do triangles, and she had a little thing to copy for triangles. Well, the first thing she said to me is, why are you using black? And I go, it's a night scene, like, that's a harvest moon. And I wanted circles in there, so you can tell I hand cut my circles, which wasn't allowed, but I obviously did what I wanted. So, and that to me, it's sort of a foreshadowing of, I moved to Denver in 1981 from upstate New York by train with a portfolio of nudes, that didn't give me any jobs, a suitcase and a purse. And I met my friend Jamie, who happened to have just moved in a couple weeks before. I was living in Capitol Hill, a block away, and she had a car. She happened to move to Denver. And so we would go and did for about 20 years, every harvest moon, we'd go for a hike in like Eldora, near Netherlands. And so here this is a night scene with Rocky Mountains. The mountains didn't look like that where I grew up. But anyway, talking. I went to junior, senior high school. I'm from a small one-store town, Verona, New York, near Rome, New York. It's not like Italians were a minority with these names. And our school was 3 different schools. 3 different communities put together, so we had a high school. And boy, I had to call all the stuff I found. The one on the top, I'm not gonna talk about every picture, I promise. The one on the top is a silk screen. I learned silk screen there, and that's my sister jumping off the swing, which we did a lot. And she will get that because on the back it says, "To Trina," that's my sister, love me, I never gave it to her. But now she's getting it. I hadn't seen very much art, but album covers were a major influence. That's a Cat Stevens album cover that with colored pencil. And then the drawing, which when I look at it now, of the guy with the piano, his name is Andy Pratt, he is still touring in that area. I really liked him, and but this tells exactly how I do things now. I did a realistic face and hands, and then I get bored, and I cannot draw, I can't make it, I'm tired of it. And so I did the rest in just a line drawing. And a lot of things, if you notice, especially, there are areas of my painting, especially the portraits, that are the eyes. This area here is very detailed, and then by the end of it, the brush gets that big. So when I look at that now, I think, oh wow, I developed that mostly because I don't have the patience, but it became a style. And there's me with my afro, and yeah. That was a really excellent life to happen. My mother tried to straighten my hair. I had to wear rollers, and I lived in a humid swamp area, and it didn't work. And so the afro was a big freedom for me. In high school, I was in like the smart gang, they call us the brain gang, but I was still the art kid, and I basically got away with as much as possible. When they had group reports, if you drew something, you could get extra credit. So all I did was draw like Louis XIV and all this stuff, and not do any research, not do any of the writing. But I got them extra points, and we did. It shows you the time period. Me and my friend Ellen and I, who just visited from New York. She just left 2 days ago. We took it upon ourselves to do billboards. And my most proudest moment is called Bridge Over Troubled Waters. We had this big, not billboards, corkboards, what do you call bulletin boards. And we went on the highway and picked up, thrown away cans and stuff like that. So we made this bridge out of construction paper. We made saran wrap, and we put all this garbage, in the water. And then, cool, we thought we were very cool, I still think we were, and called it, in construction paper, Bridge Over Troubled Water. So, Simon and Garfunkel. And so in high school, I did everything. I illustrated the covers of our poetry magazine, yearbook. One year I illustrated the whole yearbook. I did anything that I could to make it to just be drawing and doing stuff. I went to college, that's the next thing over here with the foot. I went to college at the State University, College of New York, in a beautiful place. It was on the Geneseo, it was on the baby finger of the Finger Lakes. I grew up right here on the thumb, Verona Beach. Beautiful place. And the art, I have a studio associates, what is it? BA, Bachelor of Arts degree in studio art. And other than taking art history, it basically was learning studio art. I did, drawing, I did oils, I did etching, which I can't find any of my etchings, other than that one, first etching. Take me out of my fishbowl, get me out of my fishbowl. Very angsty, like a freshman would, college. And I studied all sorts of anything I could. And so there was 2 stories of studios with North Light, and the Fine Art Building was open for 24 hours. And me and about 5 other kids were always there, other than I worked the dining hall at night. Okay, funny little story. Nighttime, make extra money. one of the dining halls. I was chosen because I was tiny, a lot tinier than I am now, because I could fit through, where you put the, I can't believe I'm telling this story. one of my jobs in college, where you put your trays and they go down and be washed? Well, someone has to go in there and clean out the traps that catch the junk. So it was disgusting. But I had to crawl in there. And then I get that done, get paid, and go back to the art rooms, which were 2 stories. Weaving, I did weaving. I would have done everything, but I sort of used up my fine art credits. One of the fine art credits I used up was the drama. People always said you should be an actress. So I took that, and within 1 week I found out I am not an actress or a comedian. I am just a ham. Other than stage makeup, I sort of wasted my credit. And so the foot, one of the things I had to do in college, that foot actually was before I was asked to do that. People ask me, why you're so good at hands and feet, what did it take? I think my senior year in college, I had to hand in an entire sketchbook every 2 weeks, totally full of hands and feet. It's a lot of hands and feet. And one of the reasons is you would develop your own shorthand for quick poses. How you do hands and feet, because you can't see them. I like to do things live. And people's hands and feet are complicated, and they're very small when you're doing them live and they don't know you're doing it. So it gave me, plus I like hands and feet, but that was sort of the type of instructions I received there. And so there was a huge senior review, and I had already, that's the first picture of me, my first solo show. It says every artist remembers their first solo show. It's hysterical if you ever care to read it. I can't believe, I don't know if Bernice is here, but it says, I hate watercolor. Oops. And I still sort of do, I still complain, it's part of my nature. But let me see, what am I doing? So I had a lot of fun in college, met a lot of different types of people. I went there thinking everyone was basically the same. I learned within a week, thought the same. They did not. That's my first boyfriend. Done life broke my heart. I mean, and this one which I love, the red nude. I had got a set of pastels for Christmas, and my teachers, they weren't teachers. They just sort of were there, They didn't really teach. I'm a good teacher, so I know they didn't really teach. And that's my first pastel. And obviously, my very favorite thing was figure drawing. I'd never done live figure drawing, and I was addicted and still am. Love it, it's my favorite thing to do. But when you are new and you don't have the experience, the energy and sometimes the originality is so much there that now I couldn't do that now. And I've known a lot of artists that say they couldn't do what they used to do as we age. We sort of, just don't have that freedom of expression. And I was a framer. When I moved to Denver, I got a frame job, which was cool because I could buzzsaw through metal frame. It gave me hand coordination and knowing about framing. I framed that one. And then I didn't have very much from the 80s, which I had a great time. I did a lot of what they now call recycled art. I love broken glass. I really love bubble wrap. And I would do collages and that because I was sort of a punk alternative person from New York, showing these people that were still wearing bell bottoms that I hadn't seen since 8th grade. I'm from a whole different place. I was hired at this frame shop because they thought I'd be a tough New Yorker and be able to call people who owed them money. And then they found out I'm way too nice to do that. I'm not doing that. I can put on the tough New Yorker if I'm in trouble. The Italian comes out. But I couldn't, the ones I found of that time period, the glue had turned yellow and stuff, so the only one I had, that 7th Street, 17th Avenue, but I did all sorts of mediums. And then I had worked at Meininger's Art Supply when it was downtown for quite a few years, and Henry Meininger had heard Phil Levine, a New York City guy, was wanting to start the Art Students League in Denver, and this is late 80s, and Henry Meininger supported him and made it happen. This was over across the river on Platt Street. Now I didn't have a car till I was in my 30s, and this is dark and a scary area, but I'd have I still have it, my sketching board on my bike, light, and I would go through downtown Denver to draw at night. And then it moved to Market Street, and Henry was going to have a store there, and he was going to just employ all these people. And I'm like, no, it's mine. I want to do the whole thing. And so that's a picture of me in my little store. The t-shirts by this great guy who did great silk screens that all of us Meininger employees bought. And so I was there morning classes, afternoon classes, and night classes. And just so I could be there all the time. And it was up in a warehouse, sort of a warehouse, old building, which is now very cool and chic. On the second floor, and there was just curtains. So I had my little art supply store. When everyone was done, I would stand and draw, there's some in those cases, the figures they were doing. And one of them is right there on the bottom right. Her name was Snow. I'm gonna have to give them to them when I'm not around anymore. I have stacks of sketchbooks of this is when I'm working. I'm in the curtain, just drawing. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I have stacks, you guys, filled sketchbooks. I have stacks and stacks. So there are some examples in those two cases. And charcoal, whatever. So basically, that's sort of the beginning of my life. This is my portfolio review. They're up on a podium, up on a stage, and there was all the art professors, and they're going, "You're incredible, oh my God, amazing, amazing. By the way, no one makes a living as an artist. You should ask to sweep up at a print shop." Do I look like a sweeper? I'm not, I don't know why, but it was in me, is not to pay attention to them. I know people who quit because of those people. But I just thought, I just didn't. And there's no big thing about me other than I just didn't, and I always did art. That's just who I was. And so there was a reunion about 20 years ago, and I had a little show there, and I told the person who was not the nicest person, I'm like, making a living here. You're still teaching and not doing much. Okay. But, so a lot of these things, these are the original Pueblo Chile paintings. These are what you, when I was driving home, I've been in the governor's show at the Loveland Art Museum for a lot of years. And I was in Pueblo. And I'm driving, I lived in Pueblo. I had moved because I had a great 90s. 90s was happening. I am flipping all over. Other than I quit to go full time, I was in many, many big shows, a lot of museum shows. I had 8 galleries. I am pumping it out. I am being, patted on the back. I'm saving money. Thank God for that, because in 2001, I saved enough money and I moved to Pueblo because I could afford a little house. So I had the 90s. After that, it was sort of way up and down, the economy. But I'm driving home from the governor's show. And once again, I have not sold. Everyone loves me, but I've got mostly figures and all sorts of things. People love them. They're not an easy sell. They're my favorite thing to do. And I'm going, what is it that I want? Because all the times I've had a gallery that was like in San Antonio or California or Salt Lake, Park City, and I'd send them there, I would get totally screwed because I've never met them. They weren't there. They're selling them for like $10,000. I only asked for $1,100, and I'm getting $600. Galleries get usually 50%. And I had to have a big friend come and get my stuff. But I had never met them, so all the galleries they've ever been in, I have to be able to drive to it and know the person and like the person. I'm really going off. So I'm driving from not selling again in the governor's show, and I go, what is it that I want? And I go, if my community would just support me, I'd be fine. Because there's a shipping and doing all that stuff takes a lot of things, not art. 2 hours later, I'm home, the phone rings. Chris Markison was the head of the economic thing. I was told not to use the word thing. He called and said, listen, the Pueblo Chile, the young, the 5th and 6th generation are wanting to stop the rivalry. It's Italians, there's a rivalry. I do know that. They wanted to be able to keep farming, and they thought if they had a brand and got together, it would help them. So he calls me, and he was there, and at this committee, and he knew my artwork from a gallery in Fort Collins, that's where they lived. He goes, God, there's this, they wanted some like old-fashioned type, what you see on the crates with the close-up of the fruit and the farmland. He goes, God, I know an artist that would be great at this. She lives, but she doesn't, I knew her from Fort Collins area. Her name is Teresa Vito, and one person said, Teresa lives here in Pueblo. So he calls me up. This is 2 hours after I said, if only my community would support me. And he goes, hey, we're doing a label. And so I had 2 weeks to get this done. So the first one is the landscape, and the one that's on the license plate over there is the little circle of Pueblo Chiles. And so that was probably, it had been handed in for about a month and a half, and suddenly it was state fair time. And the last Saturday of the state fair is officially Pueblo Chile Day, and the governor came and went to the fair, and it's all over the place. Suddenly there are billboards, they're on trucks, lunch boxes, they're now puzzles and puzzle works. They are the biggest thing I've ever done, and that's my gift to Pueblo.
Awesome.
But that's the originals, that they own them, I don't. So, and the one in the middle, which I had flyers for, I'll just tell you about it real quick. I will not do every single one. That is Carrie Clyde Holly, and she is from Pueblo. In 1885, Colorado gave women the right to vote. Nationally, they didn't get it to 1920. So she decided to run for State House of Representatives in Colorado. She got in. And she always had schools for the migrants and all this stuff. She was an amazing person. When she entered into the big House of Representatives in Denver, she had her family with her little kid and her husband, and they stopped her and said, you can't bring them in. And she's going, all the men have their family with them. And so she blocked the door before her first session until they let her in. She wrote the first bill ever written by a woman that passed in the United States. And the bill, which is known as the Holly Bill, is about the right to consent. And at this time, in the late 1800s, all the cowboys and whatever would just take little girls and say they were married. So this is the right for a child up to 18, she wanted 21, to have the right to say no to sex. Also the right to say yes. That was huge. And then the man would be charged with rape. Now, when this passed, people like all this use of suffragette, all the people, okay, shout out some suffragettes, big people, okay, never mind. They all came, rode the train, and they filled this auditorium. It was a huge round thing at the House of Representatives, and Mother Jones was one, and they with a big
Elizabeth
hats.
Stanton, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. And so they filled it, and I have a painting of her signing this bill, and this is still not a bill approved of in a lot of places in the United States, but she was the first woman to have legislature passed. She's from Pueblo, Colorado. There'll be a great unveiling. The painting is huge, which is part of the things I forgot. November 6th. If you want more information, talk to me later. I forgot it. All of these from here on are just ones that I can't believe how much I had. I had to have friends help me cull, because at least 25 of them. And they're just a representation of my work. The portraits are done live, and that's when I was blessed enough to paint with Richard Schmidt when he was in Loveland. And at the same time, this is in the 90s, I was also, as Kwan Ho was starting professional studies class, and people knew me because Greg would stretch canvas, make stuff for them. So he was more popular than me. But Kwan Ho called me and said, listen, I am starting a professional studies class, would you like to be part of it? So at the same time, in the 90s, I was the luckiest artist in the world. I'm painting with Richard Schmidt and studying with Kwan Ho. Wow. Isn't that amazing? If you know who I'm talking about, this is amazing. Sculptures. Okay, this is how I decided on painting. I liked every medium I've ever done. And I went to a plein air event. I think there's a picture of me with a plein air thing. I had just done sculptures because it was at the Art Students League, and I saw them doing it in the afternoon, and I thought I could take it between my being the store. And these are all done from life. They are terracotta clay. And the model would pose, God, no, she stood for a month. They'd pose for a month, twice a week, 3 hours a week. And we would carve them. And I really liked it. It was fun. I thought clay was great. In fact, the one of the old man, he's a miner. I used to open up the Art Students League early in the morning, and it had a loading dock, and a lot of people would sleep there. I was the first one there. I learned pretty quickly not to touch them to wake them up, because they'd come up swinging. It was not the greatest area at that time. But this guy was sleeping there, and I'd seen him before, and I'm like, hey, you should model. That's this guy. And as I was sculpting, you go around, I actually love this, you have a sculpture stand with wheels on it, and you just walk around, wheel around the model. And other people were doing that. It was like music. It was like a dance. I'm going, and so I got a really good likeness of him, and then I went to the left of his profile, and I noticed that his nose was totally flattened, something I couldn't see from the front. I go, holy cow, what happened to you? And he goes, I've been hit a few times. In fact, a nurse saw that. It says his optical orb area bone is broken. And so I'm like, holy cow. And so we were feeding him and stuff. And so I went, this is wet clay, and I went, right in his nose. It was perfectly done. Really loved me for that. So these are all clay. They are the color of the two light peachy ones. That's what happens when they get fired. So these ones, they look like bronze or something. They are done with shoe polish. And they're one of a kind,
Like, and one of the things, well, how she happened was that you have to cut them in half and hollow them out or they explode in the kiln. And this is my last one I did. And like her neck had a wooden dowel in it that would burn. And so I'm taking a wire and I'm cutting this. And I go to my friend, Karen, is this as cool as I think it is? And she goes, I think it is. So then I had to cut her in here and hollow her out so that the size of the walls were all the same size, at the most a 1/4 inch, so they wouldn't explode in the kiln. She's the only one not for sale because I feel by doing this, also it's my first gilding job. It was also it's been leaning heavily because she's sort of dried weird. And Greg actually made this stand for her before the show. And she's in a window and the sunlight shows through, so it's very cool. But she was the first one I felt, instead of just a rendering, that it was art. So she's not for sale. She's my favorite. Right after I did this, a friend of mine asked me to go, please tell me if I'm talking too much. A friend of mine said, hey, there's a plein air thing up in Tensleep, Wyoming. He had a car, I don't have a car yet. And we should go, it's like a week long. And the guy was Greg McCurran. He is a major mountain man who was known as the Teton Painters. And plein air wasn't really, I didn't even know what it was. And I went there, other than visiting a friend of Steve's that was a sculptor that was bronze, and everything had to do with the chasing, just so much stuff, not the carving. You know, decided I couldn't afford bronze, and I can't afford it, and I only have a bike, and this stuff is heavy. And so I go, I'm in love with plein air. And then this guy, to the point of it's raining, and he's in his Jeep looking for me. And I'm just there painting. And he sits me down and wants to see my sketchbook. I'm always sketching, and always have been. And he sits me down, and he goes to me, listen, you're really amazing. Now I look at those paintings and said, now I know why he thought that. But you are a jack of all trades. You're good, but you have the ability to be a master. I'm like maybe 30, 31. You have the ability to be a master. You need to choose a medium now. And I went there as a sculptor, and I came out because I love the high of doing live and being in a beautiful place. I love plein air. And I left a painter, and he told me, I will see you in a show next to me soon. A year later, this guy is big, beard, you know, just a big mountain man. I'm in a museum show, and my paintings are showing right next to him. And I don't see him coming. I'm like, wow, look at it. And he picked me up over his head, shaking me, going, I told you. And they wrote a book about him. He is now deceased, but I'm in that book. Awesome. So that's cool.
Thank you.
So a lot of these I did a whole series of road warriors. They're my heroes. This was so hot out there. It was on the border of going to New Mexico, and we were stopped. I love them. I love the neon. I like to paint people working, and it's figurative, you know. They don't sell really fast, but that is one where they're pouring pavement. This is to show people, yes, I can do animals too. Those 3 are plein airs from my Urban Sketchers group. 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, there was so many hollyhocks. That's 2 alleys down. Kool-Aid, I did a lot of still lifes. They were better sellers. That right there, I think, is one of the best paintings I ever did of the guy. It's called White Lab Coats. And it could be anything. That has been in Oil Painters of America. It did win something. And it could be anybody, but I was getting my eyeglasses ground here in Pueblo, and I'm hearing it, and there's a little window in the door, I'm peeking through the window, and I see this scene of knock, knock, knock. Oh my God, his name is Calvin. Oh my God, can I take your photo? He's like, what do you want me to do? Just keep working. The white that is fluorescent light, which is to me green, and you know, it takes away all the reds and stuff. It's what I actually paint is the color of light, and that's the color of fluorescent light. So that, I love the composition. I really caught the color of fluorescent. Really proud of that one. Let's see. I'll go really quickly. All the portraits are live. I do have one large landscape. I don't do them. I don't do that many aspens. I do plein air, but everyone does them, and I get bored really quickly. And I will always be interested in figures. The fishing people is on the island of Hydra in Greece, where I've taught workshops, outdoor painting in many places. Krista was in Greece with us.
Yes.
You've got three here are plein airs. I have a stack of plein airs that I wanted to keep for memories, but I wanted to also sell stuff by the way. It helps me, and also the art center gets a good percentage. So if you do buy one, everyone is happy. But these are some of my favorites that I felt I could let go. There's a lot I can't let go. You know, I have a stack about this much. So those are the 4. The one with the tattoos is, I taught, when I was at the Art Students League, working, also when they needed a model, I would model, and I'd be sitting there counting all of my, see, I'm making stuff for minors, I'm making this much as a model, I'm saving money to go full time, so I'm calculating. I was also, the high school class was on Saturday, and the teacher quit, and all the high school kids used to hang out in my store, and you know, because it was cool. Mm-hmm. And I started teaching at the Art Students League, 12 years to 18, and love that age group because I can talk to them like I'm talking now. Also, they're used to learning. You can tell them to correct something instead of someone just doing what they're always doing, even though they're in my workshop and trying to learn. They have no problem changing. She was one of my students, and she ran away. I knew her parents. A year and a half later, she knocked on our door, and we brought her in, and she had, you know, her head was shaved. These are all street tattoos. I make my tattoos pretty the way I want them, but she stayed with us for quite a few months until I made her do a life-size painting of her, so she had to be there till I finished. And by the end of it, her name is Blue. That's why it's called Blue Tattoo. And by the time I finished, she was in touch with her parents. She's now a midwife near Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
So she's really special to me. The Illuminate one, I designed that frame. Greg made it. He made these beautiful frames. Now, you know, he's old and his back hurts, so I was really spoiled for a while. That was a session that we hired models. Bonnie Wah arranged it, and we had lights. And that one, for me, is about, I have made the lights into a heart shape. And that's been in many shows and big shows. And not sold yet, but someone's gonna love that. It is about bringing the light from your heart up through, well, for me, it's the throat chakra, and speak with love and light. That's what that's about. The one next to it is the second time I did fire, but definitely the first time I've painted a tongue. And I've done 2 tongues now. That was from the Renaissance Festival. A few of those are from Sketchers. We run a urban Sketchers group that meets every week, and we've been doing it for 6 years. Pueblo was the first one in Colorado. We have international status, which means we can go anywhere in the world. If they have a Sketchers group, you can join them, and they're all over. There's, I don't know how many there are now. And The one with her graffiti is my good friend Melanie. She's a tough Cleveland girl. If your car was broke, if you lost your keys, she could get you in. But this guy came along, you know, good-looking musician. He had a mean dog. I didn't trust him, and she's going off to California with him. I am panicking. So it's a talisman. I painted this, having her tattoos. She has a lot more, but you know, artistic license blended to the graffiti, and then it's a rainbow. It's called Over the Rainbow because I am wishing her and painting that with as much prayers as I have to keep her safe over the rainbow. It took her about 4 months to get rid of him, but she's still out there. I miss her, and I think that's it.
Very good.